Ho, 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 and Merry Christmas from the Plug and Play podcast. Welcome, my gaming gals and guys, for this Christmas-themed episode of the Plug and Play podcast, where we talk about all the goodies and gaming joys of the holiday season. On this episode, we're going to be going through all the presents that Santa Jeff Keighley left us under the tree at this year's The Game Awards. We'll see how our award predictions went, all the big announcements, and that's pretty much it. It has been a busy holiday season here at the Plug and Play podcast, and I have had no time to play games at all. A couple of small things here and there, a demo or two, started Indiana Jones, but nowhere near far enough to really give any kind of impression on it. So it's really, we're going heavy in on the Game Awards for this Christmas-themed episode of the Plug and Play podcast. I hope to yours and you and yours, the plural on each one matters, having a good holiday season. I hope you've got all your gifts ready. This episode will be going live on the 24th, so Christmas Eve. So in other words, no one will have the time to listen to it unless you're commuting to the in-laws or the not in-laws, just the family. Then maybe you'll have some time to listen to it in the car. But odds are you're listening to this after Christmas, and you're already over the holidays, and this Christmas opening is passé. But hey, you know what? I got to get it in. I feel like it's like a bucket list item. You got to have a Christmas special. I mean, right? Really get into that holiday festivities. But before we get deep into it, why don't you leave us a rating on your favorite podcast service? You know, Spotify, Apple, we are everywhere. We are all over the place. So give us a little rating, maybe a review. Tell us how much you like it. Don't tell us, tell us if we've been good. You can, I guess, also tell us if we've been naughty, but mainly I'm looking for good stuff to boost that algorithm. Heck yeah. But that was our Christmas tie-in. I got to remember those. But anyway, comment, like, subscribe. I'm not on YouTube, but all the regular stuff, you know it. In the description, there's an email address, pluginplaypodcast1@gmail.com. If you can't remember it, it's there for your convenience. Why don't you send us a question? We'll be happy to answer it on the show. It's a fun time, audience interaction. I think that's the big stuff. I think that's the normal stuff, right? I don't know. I'm not a professional. I'm just doing it as fun. But anyway, as a nice little brief interlude, brief little warm-up here, I watched Secret Level from the new Amazon Prime show, which was actually shown off at another Jeff Keighley event, announced at another Jeff Keighley event, made by the director and creator, or not creator, but the director of Deadpool, the Deadpool movies. And it's kind of getting mixed reception, I see, from a lot of gamers everywhere. If you didn't know, it's a gaming anthology show. So that means, each episode is totally different. It's kind of a standalone story, and it focuses on a different game each episode. Or in this case, a different IP, because there are a couple of things in there that are not games at all. Or not they're not games at all, but they're not really solely video games. They're primarily other things, like there's like a Dungeons and Dragons episode. It's like, yeah, I know there's games for Dungeons and Dragons, but I mean, I don't think anybody immediately thinks of them. Like they think of obviously the tabletop game. And then obviously, like the final episode is a PlayStation episode, which everybody seems to be ragging on, which doesn't actually have any game involved other than like cameos of several Sony IPs. There's a wide range, a wide gambit of like episodes, and that I've never been super into anthology series in general, because I prefer like an arching narrative. Like I want my time to feel like I've built towards something and gotten something that I couldn't get elsewhere. And obviously anthologies aren't going to do that. In this case, like, as a huge gamer, I thought it was cool that this even exists. I'm happy that it does, and that a lot of interesting games were chosen. Games that I didn't expect to be there were there, and I was pretty happy about that. But, like, at the end of the day, is it good? Would I recommend it? And I think the answer is meh. Like, I think it's okay. And that's the horrible thing about anthology, right? Is like some games, some episodes are going to be good, some aren't. So it's hard for me to be like, yeah, watch the whole series. It's easier for me to be like, watch this episode, and this episode, which is a lot harder of a recommendation to swallow, because it's not simple and easy to just throw out there. Kind of like Black Mirror. Like, nobody's like, watch all of Black Mirror. They're like, watch the episode about that one thing that's really effed up where he has sex with a pig. You know, that's kind of like what you kind of get with anthology series. But anyway, the ones that were good to me, I mean, like, I think overall, if you're looking for, like, and what I wanted, let's really get into that. What I wanted from this was I wanted games to have, like, a chance to shine and show off their stories and their lore and their universe. I mean, that's kind of more so what, like, a non-interactive medium is going to be able to show off is, you know, like a narrative perspective, right? And almost none of these did that. These are all really just like an action episode with a gaming coat of paint, you know, like, or a gaming wrapper around them. So, like, one that stood out to me was, like, the Warhammer 40K episode. Obviously, Space Marine is, like, a big thing right now. And this episode it was like a really cool action sequence. Did I understand any of actually what was going on? No, absolutely not, because I don't follow the Warhammer 40K lore at all. So, like, to me, it was a bunch of real, like, abstract nonsense, but, like, the action was cool, and I just understood that there were these dudes who were, like, murder machines going out and killing monsters, and, like, that was cool. And then, like, there was a Armored Core episode with Keanu Reeves, definitely the biggest celebrity get outside of Kevin Hart in the PlayStation episode, obviously. But it's, again, like, just mechs fighting each other. And it's like, I don't know anything about the Armored Core universe. I get it. I guess it's like a grungy, like, mecha city, like, fighting kind of thing. And, like, that's all I really need to know. But, like, to me, that just doesn't get me invested in the game at all. It doesn't make me want to play the game. It just makes me say, like, that's a really cool action scene with robots fighting each other. And that's kind of as far as my interest goes. You know, it's also hard to do anything really particularly special outside of just an action sequence when most of these episodes do not go beyond 20 minutes. Some of these episodes, and I mean, like, more than one episode, is like, they're 5 minutes long, like, literally 5 minutes long. Like, the Mega Man episode is 5 minutes long, and it's like, how do you even communicate anything interesting in 5 minutes from these IP? And, like, you know, within 5 minutes, I guess they do an okay job with something like Mega Man, but, like, I can't say that, again, like, I was, like, blown away by it. I think the series is beautiful. My favorite episode overall, get ready for this. This is going to blow you away. Concord was my favorite episode out of all of them. I actually thought it told a decent story. It set up the universe. I mean, it was exactly what I was just saying I wanted from the show. From each episode, and it delivered. Not only that, but I think it did it really well. And so it was very funny because, you know, some of the directors or the developers of the game were like, well, we really hope that when, you know, Secret Level comes out and you see the Concord episode, that you finally are able to see, like, what we thought would have been special about this IP. And I have to admit, yeah, I mean, it did actually look kind of good. Like, it actually, the story and universe and characters that they're kind of setting up and the tone actually does kind of seem kind of good. And I did not get that while playing the beta and seeing like the scenes from the beta that, they kind of touted as their narrative driving devices for that universe. So like, I actually think they did do a much better job here. Is it 400 million or 200 million or whatever Sony had put, like the bet that Sony had made on it, good? No, absolutely not. I would not see that short or that episode and be like, yeah, this is a Star Wars level IP, but I would say this is pretty good. Like, this is actually nice and like enjoyable, and like I wouldn't mind consuming more of this. Like, this is actually pretty interesting. And yeah, it's dead. So that will never happen. People don't like the PlayStation episode. I don't know. I haven't actually looked into why. I've just heard people didn't like it. It's the final episode of the series, and it's essentially like, I don't know. It is kind of masturbatory. I ain't gonna lie. Like it's Sony being like, don't play these mobile games. Play these video games, these console games, and then like they only have like 4 IP that are in it. The soldiers from Helldivers, Kratos, a Colossi from Shadow of the Colossus, and then Sackboy are the only games that make an appearance, and they used them several times, so it was clear that they just only had permission to use those 4. Like, they could have used other cameos, they just didn't. And then Kevin Hart is like the villain of that episode, which, I don't know. If you like Kevin Hart, I guess he's in it. Doesn't really do much, but he, to add to that, but he is in it. So yeah, I mean, it's just kind of masturbatory. It's like, it's also weird because Sony, I know, has like a mobile game division. So it's weird that they're like, mobile games and like all the trappings around mobile games, don't those kind of suck? It's like, I don't know, man. You kind of make some, so that's weird that you're just like dogging on them that hard. So yeah, I mean, like, there's a couple other episodes in there that are okay, action sequences that are fun. Sifu was, a cool like kung fu episode, as it should be. I mean, just watching the combat in that game is pretty cool, but like a lot of them are pretty forgettable, or a lot of them are okay at best, and don't really do anything to get you involved in wanting to really check out the game. But like overall, I'd say if you're looking for just like a cool action scene, I think honestly it's worth a watch. Like, it's really not bad. But like, I think most of these IP are games that most gamers aren't really going to care about in the first place. They're very hardcore IP, like very hardcore IP. This is not a like, oh, I know what Super Mario is. Like, I know who Sonic the Hedgehog is. I'll check it out. I've seen Pac-Man before. Like, no, like it's not who it's here for. It's for some hardcore guys. To a point where I even didn't understand I didn't even know several of the IP. Like, I had to look it up. Another one of my favorite episodes was actually based on a mobile game. And I didn't even know what it was. Like, I liked the episode so much, I actually looked it up, and I was like, what the frick is this? I don't even know what this game is, and it's a frickin' mobile game. And I was like, oh, it's a MOBA mobile game. And I was just like, well, you just put 2 M words that I frickin' hate in the same frickin' descriptor. I'm out. Like, that's cool. You had a nice episode, but I don't give a frick anymore. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. I think people are being a little harsh on it, but I still think it's fine. It has already been announced, season 2 on the way, which I'll be watching. Yeah, I mean, I think it's totally, again, I mean, I'm just hardcore into the gaming space enough that I think they'll probably choose games that I think are at least interesting to check out what they do with them, and I'll be watching for sure. But that's like my take on it. It's honestly one of the better. I mean, Fallout was the other video game show that I actually liked this year that I watched, but this one is like, honestly, I just appreciate that it exists, that somebody's giving a lot of these IP the time of day. I think that's pretty nice. So that was a long warm-up. I guess I had a lot more to say about that than I assumed. I guess, it makes sense. But moving on, we're going to hit a brief news topic up at the front. So last episode, I was talking about Sony looking to buy out Kadokawa, which is a big Japanese IP holder, so they have a lot of anime, manga, and video games. Most notably, they own From Software, who obviously makes Elden Ring, Dark Souls, all those guys. So kind of a big deal there. A lot of the gaming community speculating, oh, they want to buy it for, Elden Ring. They want that. They want to lock down From Software and rectify the mistake they made years ago. I don't think so. That's not what I thought. I thought this was clearly an anime acquisition. And so Sony already owned in 2021, they bought a 2% stake in Kadokawa, which obviously is just kind of a foot in the door, kind of entry-level stock purchase. In this instance, people were assuming they were going to completely buy the company. There was a lot of kind of scrambling around that. And honestly, this story moved a lot faster than I thought it would. I thought we'd be sitting on this for months, possibly, while things got kind of figured out. Nope. It is already kind of... I mean, it technically could continue. This could just be another step in the road to acquiring Kadokawa, but I honestly don't think so. So in this instance, they own 2%. They bought another 8%. So now Sony is owner of 10% of the company, and they put out a statement in regards to the purchase. And Sony claimed it plans to, quote, discuss specific initiatives for collaboration, such as initiatives to adapt Kadokawa's IP into live-action films and TV dramas globally, co-produce anime works, expand global distribution of anime works throughout the Sony Group, further expand publishing of Kadokawa games, and develop human resources to promote and expand virtual production. If you didn't realize, most of that statement involves Kadokawa's anime branch, pretty much. There's other statements that kind of emphasize this even further from both sides after the purchase was made. I think it's an anime thing. I think From Software is a nice boon on top of that, but I think if they really, really wanted these things, they would have just bought it. I think this is honestly probably the best outcome for the consumer. So, like I was saying last week or last episode, this is kind of Sony. Sony already owns a lot of the anime industry, a lot of it, too much of it already. And Kadokawa is kind of the next big dogs that Sony really could be looking at. And if they own them, I think it would look pretty monopoly-ish. At least, those are the biggest people would all be the next biggest guy. It's like, Microsoft buying Activision, except for if Microsoft didn't own everything else other than Xbox. It wouldn't look good. It already didn't look good, but this would kind of be the same thing. In this instance, Sony gets what they want. It seems like they'll be able to have a nice hand on things, be able to guide things the way they want, kind of take the benefits from a lot of their productions, but also, as consumers, we don't have to worry about them completely gobbling the thing up, at least for now. And hopefully, it kind of remains a little bit more floaty. Otherwise, I guarantee you, Elden Ring wouldn't be coming out on Xbox. It'd be coming out on just PlayStation, or Elden Ring 2 would just be coming out on Xbox, or just be coming out on PlayStation. Excuse me. But anyway. So I think this is honestly a pretty nice end to the story, hopefully end. It will probably continue in some shape or form depending on what happens down the road. But for now, that's the resolution we have. And I think it's an okay resolution. So, just wanted to follow up on that. Next would be, of course, our big meaty boy. Our big Christmas present for this Christmas-themed episode, which I already kind of abandoned that theme. I was way better about this on the Halloween episode, which if you haven't listened to that, go check that out. This is the Game Awards. So, we're going to start off. Obviously, the meat and potatoes of this is the announcements, right? Nobody cares about acknowledging game developers. Who cares? Just because they're objectively important, and make the things possible that we enjoy. Who cares? We care about seeing more things to buy. Buy. America. Christmas. There you go. That's another tie-in. Consumerism. So anyway, that's the obvious meat and potatoes of this. But we're going to start off with the awards first. So obviously, I like kind of seeing how these shake out. It's never obvious, but it all kind of funnels into the same base, I suppose. There are some that were definitely obvious and some that definitely surprised me. So, last episode, thought it would be fun, go through, say all the ones I expected to win, and the results were a little bit more mixed than I thought. I thought I did really well watching. I was like, of course I chose that one. And then I went back and I listened. I was like, oh, no, I didn't do that. That was, I listened back and I was like, oh, I thought about choosing that one, or I thought I wanted that one, but I didn't actually choose it to win. So like a little bit of a shaky prediction here from Henry here, but hey, we're going to go through them all. We're going to tell you which ones I got, which ones I didn't. At the end, we'll give myself a nice little score. Passing, failing, we'll see. Stick with me here. So first off, we have the first three categories, which in the Game Awards, of course, we just blew by. It's almost like they didn't care about them because I don't think anybody cared about them, and including myself. They were at the very beginning of the show, and they just said all of them at the same time just to get them over with. And I don't know anything about esports. These are the esports categories, and I don't know anything about these, and so I just kind of took a shot in the dark, and I ended up getting two out of three of them. So I was pretty pleased with that. So best esports team, we had Billy Gaming, Jin G, Navi, T1, and Team Liquid. T1 won, which is a League of Legends team. I chose Team Liquid because it was the only team that I recognized the name of, and that is obviously incorrect. Next was Best Esports Athlete. Nominated 33, Alex Skib, Chovy, Faker, Zaiwu, Zjibka. Of course. And the winner was Faker. I chose Faker because it was the only name that seemed relatively legible, honestly, and I think I've actually heard of Faker before. So I chose Faker. He won. Best esports game. This one, actually, I could make some kind of an educated guess on because I actually know what these games are. I have no idea who these teams or people are. Dota 2, Counter-Strike 2, League of Legends, Mobile Legends, Bang Bang, and Valorant. I chose League of Legends. The winner is a League of Legends. I was a little bit surprised by that. I just chose it because I was like, yeah, it's the only one I really see like major tournaments for still. So, I mean, I guess that has to be the one. And I was expecting there to be the esports community to just have a different game that isn't like a 2.5 decades old or however the frick old League of Legends is, to like be the new shiny thing that they all voted for. But like, I guess League of Legends still on top on that one, so congrats. Another one, Content Creator of the Year. I didn't know anything about these people. So Case O, Illo One, I believe, Techno Gamers, Typical Gamer, and Usada Pekara. Obviously, I only know who Usada Pekara is, that's my niche on the internet that I'm in, but I chose Case O because I've seen memes of him, and that means he's popular. So guess what? Queso won. My meme strategy paid off. Next. I'm blowing through these because there's not much going on here. This is like, I either don't care about these categories or it is very speculative. Like, what actually makes a content creator best content creator? Like, who knows? All right, next up, we have most anticipated game. So the nominees were Death Stranding 2, On the Beach, Ghost of Yotei, Grand Theft Auto 6, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and Monster Hunter Wilds. Winner, or my prediction, Grand Theft Auto 6. Winner, Grand Theft Auto 6. A bobbing baby. Yeah, so I think some people may have been caught off guard by this. I think it's kind of the obvious choice here. Maybe Nintendo fanboys would have taken over Metroid Prime 4, but I mean, like, this is one, the most impending, and two, it's easily, like, the most accessible, and, like, I don't think hardcore people talk about it very much, or at least when they talk about it, I don't think you see, like, people's eyes go wide and be like, oh my gosh, Grand Theft Auto's another Grand Theft Auto, that's crazy. I think you just kind of be like, well, yeah, we got it. That's a big game. Everybody knows Grand Theft Auto, So I think it was obvious to me, though. Everybody's going to vote for that. There's a lot of excitement outside of the typical hardcore community for that, I think. Best adaptation. So this is where we start getting in some more interesting awards, a little bit more. I mean, obviously all these awards are subjective, right? But like most anticipated game, how do you really quantify that? That's like just literally a how good is your marketing award, how strong is your brand or IP, that's kind of a lame award. But these, we're getting into the more like objective, like understandable awards as to why they would even be here. So this one is best adaptation. So best video game, movie, TV show, whatever the case is, adaptation. Our nominees are Arcane, Fallout, Knuckles, Like a Dragon, Yakuza, and Tomb Raider, The Legend of Lara Croft. I said Arcane. Winner is Fallout. This is a bit of a surprise to me. Just a little bit. Not much. When I was initially picking these, I definitely said, like, it's either going to be Fallout or Arcane. Like, the other three don't even really stand a chance. Fallout was easily the more popular one. Like, I had people who aren't even really into Fallout or just video games in general talking to me about Fallout, how good it was, how much they enjoyed it. The sales of the game skyrocketed because of Fallout, the success of the show. Difference is Arcane, I think, is considered more of a critical success. It's more of like I think Fallout was the popularity contest winner. I think Arcane is what it seems to me more so the objective critical winner. And I went with the critical winner, even though I haven't seen Arcane. I've only heard like it's a masterpiece. It'll make you cry. It'll make you freaking contemplate your freaking life. It'll make you want to be throw your life away to a League of Legends addiction, that kind of stuff. Your typical over-exaggerated internet schlock kind of praise. Fallout was more so just like everybody was watching it. I don't think Fallout is I think Fallout is a good adaptation. I don't think it's like masterful. I think it's just fun. I think Fallout is just fun. Arcane, I think, looks to be something more like we are trying to produce something really worthwhile. And that's why I chose it. I thought maybe people would go by that. Nope, it was just a popularity contest, so that's cool. Next is best multiplayer game. I really hedged my bets on pretty much everything multiplayer going to Helldivers 2. We're going to see how that worked out. The nominees are Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Tekken 8, and Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. My pick, Helldivers 2. The winner, Helldivers 2. So this is a category I'm not very apt, not very knowledgeable on. I have played a game from each one of these franchises. Some of them I actually played this year, the nominees specifically. But I just didn't see. I think Tekken 8 was the other one that I was like, this has a possibility, but I think it, the Helldivers was a little bit more ubiquitous. I think more people played it, so I went with it. And it won, so that's good. Best sports and racing game. This is one of the categories that I misremembered my pick. So the nominees are, I don't know anything about sports or racing games, so the nominees are F1 24, EA Sports FC 25, NBA 2K25, Top Spin 2K25, WWE 2K24. Lots of 2s, lots of Ks in there, and several 5s and 4s. I chose NBA 2K25 because my logic was it's going to EA Sports FC 25 or NBA 2K25. I think NBA is more popular in the States. I think soccer, which is EA Sports FC 25, is more popular worldwide. I think definitely soccer games still have like FIFA, even though that series doesn't exist anymore technically under EA. is still very, very popular. I just assumed that the brand change probably would have hurt it, just a minute bit. And I assumed that the majority of voters were from America. So NBA is what I went with. The winner was EA Sports FC 2025. So miss on that one. Next up, best sim/strategy game. I have played none of these games. Actually, I played the demo for Unicorn Overlords. I take that back. And the demo for Kinetsugami, Path of the Goddess. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The nominees are Frostpunk 2, Age of Mythology Retold, Kinetsugami, Path of the Goddess, Manor Lords, and Unicorn Overlord. I chose Unicorn Overlord. Not a big strategy guy. I don't play a lot, at least. And there weren't a lot of strong picks here. I went with Unicorn Overlord because it seemed like the obvious one. It's a Vanillaware game that clearly had a lot of hardcore backing because it's just straight up, it's a Vanillaware game. If you don't know, Vanillaware is the people who make games with really, really pretty art styles, very nice hand-drawn art in all of their games. And it also got an 88 on Metacritic. So very, very well reviewed. Frostpunk 2, obviously a sequel to a very well-liked game, but it reviewed lower than the original. So I just kind of assumed the obvious choice was Unicorn Overlord. The winner, obviously, I kind of just gave that away, is Frostpunk 2. So another miss on the charts here. Best family game, Princess Peach Showtime, Astrobot, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Legend of Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom, and Plucky Squire. I chose Astrobot. I think it's obvious. Astrobot was the winner. It's the only game in this list that is nominated for Game of the Year. It is typically a very strong bet that if your game is nominated for Game of the Year and you are a lone nominee in a sea of other random games that weren't, you're probably just going to win. It'll probably just be that as the winner. If not, you didn't win Game of the Year. That's typically how that works. So, I mean, there's definitely exceptions to that, and we'll get to them as we go. But in most cases, it's a pretty surefire bet. So I chose Astrobot. I think it's obvious that it's the winner. It's nominated for Game of the Year, so it's clearly considered better. It was reviewed incredibly high, 95 on Metacritic. That's absurd. Plucky Squire's mid as frick. Super Mario Party Jamboree. Those games never really review super well. Princess Peach Showtime, I mean, this is really the Nintendo category, isn't it? Is obviously that game, even I was kind of rooting for it, and I even thought it was pretty mid. And then Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom was the only other possible candidate that had a shot in this list, and I think people were pretty lukewarm on it too. So that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. I think Astrobot was going to run away with that one, and I think it did. Best fighting game. I know nothing about fighting games either. So our nominees were Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, Rising, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. I keep thinking it's Sparkling. It's Sparking. Marvel vs. Capcom Collection, Arcade Classics, Multiverses, and Tekken 8. I think I kind of had to debate this originally when I looked at it, but I eventually got to the conclusion that, Tekken 8 was my only real option. I chose Tekken 8. It's your big name here, obviously, your legendary franchise. That's a new entry in the series and was reviewed very well, 90 on Metacritic. So it was kind of my obvious pick here, and it won. Tekken 8. I wouldn't have been surprised if it was something different because I just simply don't follow the fighting game community, what they think is good and bad. So Tekken 8 could frickin' be hated by the community at this point in the year. I don't know. It came out early, so but I went with it and it won. Best RPG. So we're getting into some categories that I'm a little bit more familiar with, or a lot more familiar with in this case. So in this case, we have Dragon's Dogma 2, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII, Rebirth, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, and Metaphor Refantasio. Now, we all know that I definitely enjoyed Final Fantasy VII Rebirth more than any other game on this list, but I said Metaphor Refantasio. I went against my heart on this one. I said Metaphor ReFantazio is going to be the winner. And the winner is Metaphor ReFantazio. That's right, people. I think it is recency bias. I think it's recency bias. I think that's really just what it comes down to primarily, is its recency bias. I think it just came out. It reviewed on par. It actually reviewed lower than Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, if we really want to be specific. But just by a hair, decimal points. But like it pretty much reviewed on par. And Final Fantasy VII obviously is coming from a big IP, well-known IP. It's a sequel. I think for some reason it didn't sell as well. I don't think that has much to do with it, but I do think that soured the mood around it, and obviously recency bias is a huge factor. Metaphor ReFantazio is just going to take it based on, honestly, like recency bias. And it did. I think those two are definitely neck and neck for just like dividing that RPG community. So I think, that is going to play a factor in some awards down the line. Best Action Adventure. We have Astrobot, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Silent Hill 2, Star Wars Outlaws, and The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. I gave it to Astrobot. The clear winner here, obviously, Astrobot. It is the only game here that is nominated for Game of the Year. I just kind of went with that. And that I obviously liked it more than all of these games. I actually haven't played any of these other games this year. I own 3 of them, other than Astrobot, but I haven't played any of them yet. So getting around to those, looking forward to it. But I think, again, Astrobot was nominated for Game of the Year. I think it was obvious. Best Action Game. For this one, we have Black Myth: Wukong, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, and Warhammer 40k Space Marine. I chose Helldivers 2. This one was tricky, and this one really disappointed me. It was about this moment that I was like, I have clearly underestimated this game. Because I thought Helldivers 2 was clearly like the defining cultural shift to kind of moment of this year. It had a lot of people playing it. It really took people by storm, and continued to do so throughout the year. Warhammer definitely didn't do that. Stellar Blade was more so controversial than good. And Call of Duty, while a good entry in the series, is not revolutionary in any capacity. It's just a good Call of Duty game. So I don't think Black Myth: Wukong looks good. I hear completely mixed things about it every time I hear about it. So I went with Helldivers 2. And Black Myth: Wukong was actually the winner. So at that point, I was like, my jaw dropped a little bit. I was like, oh, yes, it's nominated for Game of the Year, but I just thought that was just like I thought it was just like more people played it. It's a popularity contest thing. I was like, clearly it's not actually better than these games. People are going to vote for the game that's better, right? And, or like deserves to win more. And no, I think people voted for the popular one again. And again, we've talked about it, but like, you have to have the time to play all these games. And it's possible that a lot of people just didn't ever get around to these games, and they all played Black Myth because it's shorter. It's shorter, and it was really the main talking point of the time when it came out. So I kind of get it. But at the same time, it's disappointing. I just think that game is just a mar on this year in terms of, like, people clearly didn't think it was that good, and it's being nominated for, like, Game of the Year. When we have other games that clearly were considered better. So it's a little frustrating to me. But I'm a loser, so it is what it is. Best VR/AR game. Arizona Sunshine Remake, which is interesting because I think Arizona Sunshine 2 came out this year. So that's interesting. Asgard's Wrath 2, which actually came out in December of last year. It missed the cutoff, but it was reviewed in the 90s for a Metacritic, or for a review score, which is kind of crazy. You just don't see that with very many VR games. Batman: Arkham Shadow, Metal Hellsinger VR, and Metro Awakening. I chose Batman, and Batman won. I think the other one I kind of expected was Asgard's Wrath 2, but because it reviewed the highest out of all of these games. The difference is it came out a year ago. It came out an entire year ago. People don't remember it, and Batman is new, fresh. People are still riding that high, and it has brand name recognition. So even if you didn't play any of these games and you just voted randomly, you're going to vote for Batman. So, Batman, a correctamundo. Best mobile game. Actually, we're just going to go through these real quick because the same game won, and I think it's pretty obvious who won. So, best mobile game: AFK Journey, Balatro, Pokemon Trading Card Pocket, Game Pocket, Wuthering Waves, Zenless Zone Zero. I chose Balatro. Winner, Balatro. Best debut indie game: Balatro, Animal Well, Manor Lords, Pacific Drive, The Plucky Squire. I chose Balatro. The winner, Balatro. Best independent game: Animal Well, Balatro. You may see a recurring theme here. Lorelei and the Lazier Eyes, Neva, UFO 50. I chose Balatro. The winner, a Balatro. Obviously, it was a Balatro sweep. If you have an indie game that gets nominated for Game of the Year, pretty much is going to freaking sweep all of these. It just happened to be a debut indie game, and a mobile game. Most of these categories are going to be kind of, I'm not going to say bad, but like people are already going to have like a raised eyebrow with these categories in the first place. They're not considered as high quality as the other like AAA categories. So, like obviously people don't give a frick about mobile games in the hardcore space, even though it's such a huge space. We really do need to, have a moment for it, no doubt. I don't even know what frickin' Wuthering Waves is, like what the frick even is that? So yeah, Balatro is going to win. And then, debut indie game, obviously Animal Well. I think it's really unfortunate. Everybody talked so big about Animal Well too at the beginning of the year or when it came out. And I think that game just fell the frick off. It just fell off so hard. It was the only other possible contender, and I think it would have won any other year. I think it's just Balatro it dominated. It really did. Best independent game. Yeah, I think UFO 50 had a shot as well for best independent game. I don't think anybody played it. Or not anybody, but I think it was like it's one of those things that I hear like a lot of people talk really highly about. But I think it's just overwhelming, 50 games, and it doesn't look very like an easy sell for a lot of people. But like everybody I've heard talk about it says it's great. So I saw that as a potential winner as well. But again, Balatra's nominated for Game of the Year, so it's gonna win. Best community support. I had no idea what the frick. And this was one that I misremembered because I was like, I guess I just chose my favorite game out of all of these, and I didn't do that. So nominees for best community support. Again, I don't know how you determine what is best community support, but we have an award for it, so here it is. Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, Helldivers 2, and No Man's Sky. I chose Helldivers 2. The winner was Baldur's Gate 3. I didn't even know this was like an ongoing supported game, like per se. Like I'm sure they're still putting patches out for it, but like they're not dropping content updates like freaking an MMO or a games as a service game, which all of these other games are. So that was a big whiff there. I think people just chose their favorite game. I genuinely don't know how to determine what is the best community support and if Larian even is giving the best community support. Maybe they are, but I don't know. Best ongoing game. Nominees are Destiny 2, Diablo 4, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, and Helldivers 2. I almost went Diablo 4 on this. Looking back and, now looking at who won, I'm like, well, I'm glad I freaking didn't. I chose Helldivers 2, the winner. Helldivers 2. That's right. So I got it right. Another in the bag. But I was definitely, I don't play a lot of ongoing games, but I know that Helldivers 2 had a lot of complaints, as like any freaking Games of Service does, I guess, pretty soon after release, or just a couple months after release, and it didn't ever seem to really recover from that stigma. It just kind of went back to being like okay instead of good. At least that's kind of the sentiment I heard. So I almost went Diablo 4 because that was just like the only game I don't hear like negative things about. But here we are. I chose the correct one. Games for Impact. So this is kind of your political, like progressive award, I suppose, is the best way of saying it. Nominees are Closer, The Distance, Indica, Neva, Life is Strange, Double Exposure, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, and Tales of Kinzera Zao. I chose Tales of Kinzera Zao because I played that game, and I actually thought it was pretty good, and I specifically thought the representation in it was good, which I thought is what this game was about. That's what I assumed that people were choosing their winners based on. So if you didn't know, Tales of Kinzera Zao is about basically like African mythology, and in a way, not direct African mythology, but it has a lot of African mythos and lore and references. And I think it does handle it like really well, and like I felt like it was done very well. And I didn't finish the game. I didn't think it was that good, but I thought it was a competently made game as well. It's at least okay. And but I was voting based on what made the most quote unquote impact. Like what was representing these more excluded groups better. And I chose that game. Did not win. Neva won. That was a popularity contest vote, no doubt. It was the highest reviewed game on this list by a long shot. Most of these games did not review very well. So Neva is the only good, well-reviewed game, and probably the only game that people played on this list and actually didn't hate. So it won. I don't even know what the story of Neva is. It didn't look like it was about anything interesting. It looked like it was just about a girl, which is, I guess, representation, I guess. But we got plenty of female protagonists, but I don't know. It just didn't seem like it was doing anything crazy, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't really know that much about Neva, so I'll stand down on that. Innovation and accessibility. Interestingly enough, I thought I chose the correct one on this one. I missed this. Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Diablo 4, Dragon Age The Veilguard, Prince of Persia The Lost Crown, and Star Wars Outlaws. I chose Diablo 4 because I just thought that's the only game I thought looked like. I went with a popularity contest, essentially, and I was like, I don't think people will vote for Call of Duty. I don't think people will vote for Dragon Age. I don't think people will vote for Star Wars, and nobody played Prince of Persia. So, of course, I'm just going to go with the game that seems like it has the best community sentiment overall. It did not win. Prince of Persia actually won, which is another award that I don't know how people really make this decision. And I actually, when I went back through, I was like, did I not pick Prince of Persia? Because I remember thinking, the only thing I know about this game is that it adds markers that you can add to the map for a Metroidvania. And I was like, that's accessibility. And I actually like that. So, I guess I'll vote for that. But I was like, oh, I didn't vote for that. That's actually really interesting. Also very interesting is that this studio is shut down. You'll never get a game like this again. So it was very weird having Ubisoft show up and accept an award for a game that they had just shut down the studio for. So unfortunate for the people who actually made the game. You can't be really rewarded for that. You don't have a job anymore. Or you probably got moved to another team within Ubisoft, but still. Best performance. This is an interesting one. I really didn't know what to go with here. Hannah Tell, who is in Life is Strange, Double Exposure. Brianna White, who you may know as Aerith in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Humberly Gonzalez as the protagonist in Star Wars Outlaws. Luke Roberts as the protagonist in Silent Hill 2. And Melina Jurgens, I believe, as the protagonist in Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, as Senua. I chose Brianna White. I thought it was obvious that this was going to be a popularity contest. Aerith, fan favorite character, one of the games for Game of the Year. I thought this was a blowout win. Not so. Melina Juergens won it. Here's the thing. I know that I've been clowning on Hellblade 2 all year. I say it's really garbage. I really hated my time with it. I didn't find it fun. It's hard for me to deny that performance is really good. I think Melina is given a really hard task in what she's trying to represent and what she's trying to show, specifically somebody with like schizophrenia, like literally, it's very prominent in the game, and she does an excellent job showing how insane she is and how tortured this person is, that Senua specifically, that she's playing. And I mean, it's a very well done performance. Not only that, but the motion capture really shows off every detail, every wrinkle in her face, so you really get every monicum of emotion from the performance. I did not expect this to win, though. I didn't think anybody cared about this game anymore. It actually reviewed okay, but like I didn't like it at all. Like I thought it was a really bad game. So I was very surprised by this, but pleasantly surprised. I think she deserves it. I did not think she was going to win, which is why I say like it flip-flops between like games that I'm like, oh, well, that clearly won because it's a popularity contest. And, oh, well, that one because it kind of deserves it and people recognize that. So it's also weird for me to really, come to terms with that. Best audio design: Astrobot, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, and Silent Hill. I chose Astrobot because I actually do think that the sound design is really good here. I think it could have gone to several of these contenders. I think Astrobot utilizes the music in its game very, very well, and I thought that would carry it. It also went to Senua's Saga, which also blew me away. Again, this is a game that I just assumed nobody played, nobody liked, and everybody forgot about. And there were a couple of very well-liked Game of the Year contenders in here, and I just assumed those would win. No. I actually do think Senua's Saga deserves it. Another shocker, right? Like, I didn't like that game. I actually do think the performances and the sound design are amazing. Again, like, that's like one of the few games I would highly recommend you play with headphones. The voices that you're hearing are all around you, and you get that real sense of like they are in your head, always surrounding you, always berating you. Like there's some really well done stuff with how they really handle that audio design, and it really adds to the experience in a really cool way. Did I think people were going to vote for it? Absolutely not. I thought people were going to write this game off 100%. No. People actually voted for what I think deserves to win, and that is surprising to me. So another X for me. Best score in music: Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor ReFantazio, Silent Hill 2, and Stellar Blade. I chose Metaphor ReFantazio, and this was a very tough one for me. I even said, like, I went to the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth Orchestra this year because I love the soundtrack of the game so much. I think Astrobot's soundtrack is really good, and I thought that Metaphor ReFantazio has some very, very standout tracks that I see a lot of people referencing as like one of the standout parts of that game is the music in it. So I was like, clearly Metaphor is going to win because it has that recency bias to it. And it won Best RPG, so I was pretty, on point with that too. Winner was actually Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which I was very pleasantly surprised by. Honestly, would have been okay with just about anybody other than Stellar Blade and Silent Hill winning. I think those games have moments that are good within their game for their audio, for their score and music, but not overall. Just a track or two. I think that Astrobot, Final Fantasy, and Metaphor really play into their music throughout. Like their whole score is something interesting and memorable and fun. And I think I would have been cool with any of them winning. Unfortunately, I chose the wrong one here. So another loss. Best Art Direction: Astrobot, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, Metaphor ReFantazio, and Neva. I think it was obvious. Metaphor ReFantazio, I chose Metaphor, it won. There was no shocker here. The art in that game looks really, really good. So it's not any surprise. Best Narrative: So this is a soft spot for me. I really like narrative in games. So Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Metaphor ReFantazio, Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, and Silent Hill 2. I chose Metaphor ReFantazio. Again, recency bias. I've actually heard, now that the game has been out for, over a month, and people have actually been able to play it through, the story does fall off. And it's very funny because I even said that in the last podcast. I was like, oh, who knows? The story could be good for 40 hours, and in the last 20, you freaking want to kill yourself. And I've heard that from multiple people. Like, the game definitely is like, it overstays its welcome in terms of narrative and all sorts of different things, really, by the end of it, which doesn't surprise me at all. That's how a lot of those games are from that developer. So I chose Metaphor, though. It has recency bias behind it, and I think the opening is pretty strong, and I think a lot of reviewers would have gotten through the opening and not actually finished it. So I chose Metaphor, and it won. So very happy there. And then, obviously, the two last categories are the obvious ones. So Game of the Year and Best Game Direction are the same nominees, the same winner, and of course I said that they were. So I just bunched them into two categories. So we'll do it at the same time. So Game of the Year, the biggin: Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantazio. I went with Astrobot. I'm sure if you've been following the gaming industry at all, you know what won by now. But my logic behind that was obviously Final Fantasy VII and Metaphor have the actual best chance of winning here, and they will be split. The RPG crowd will split the vote. Some RPG people will choose Metaphor, some RPG people will choose Rebirth, and they will not be able to get a percentage high enough to win overall. Astrobot is the next pick based on reviews, and obvious just sentiment overall from what I see. So I chose Astrobot, and it was the winner. Kind of a surprise, a nice surprise, considering that this is a game that I don't think a lot of people gave a lot of credit to, I guess. It's not, it is a AAA game, but it's from a genre that a lot of people don't ever really consider as unless you're a Nintendo game, a possible contender for this kind of a category. I still am of the mind that it is not as good as Game of the Year when we have other entries like this, but it is still very, very good. And I understand why it won. I just still think that people overhype it because has so much Sony, hardcore gamer pandering in it, which is, it is what it is. But overall, I'm very happy with Astrobot winning. I think it's a fun game and deserves that title. It's just not what I would have chosen personally. But it's all close. I mean, all of these games that I've played here are honestly, I understand why they would have won either way. So overall, there were 29 categories, technically 30 if we include Player's Choice, which went to Black Myth Wukong, by the way. I was very surprised by that. I actually did not care about any of the games in the final categories there. Most of them were frickin' free-to-play games, including Zenless Zone Zero, Genshin Impact, and Wuthering Waves, which I've played 5 minutes of Zenless Zone Zero and Genshin Impact, but I've never actually heard of Wuthering Waves before, but it frickin' was a finalist for that category, which is insane to me. And then the other was Shadow of the Erdtree, and then obviously Black Myth Wukong. I didn't care about any of these games. I didn't want to play any of these games. And I think I just chose Shadow of the Erdtree because I liked Elden Ring, and it was Black Myth Wukong. So I was very surprised by that. Again, people clearly disagree with me on my take. I guess I need to give Black Myth Wukong a try if people actually like it. I genuinely don't think it will really blow me away, but clearly people enjoyed it. But out of the 30, I got 19 correct. So I was like, oh, dude, I did really great. I freaking got all these right. I think I got a lot right. 19 out of 29, or out of 30 is very good. But still a D. It's still a D grade. So I'm interested to hear, what you did in comparison, what you thought, how your tally potentially, leveled out in terms of mine. Did you beat me? Did you lose? I'm interested to hear. Maybe you should leave a comment on the podcast or send us an email at plugandplaygmail, blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm trying to say. Audience participation. That's all I'm trying to get at. But anyway, I think that was fun. I think, it's easy for me to misremember things and just assume I'm right on everything, so it's actually kind of cool to see what I actually did right and wrong. To have it in writing, so I can't just go back and forget how wrong I was. But yeah. A funny little aside is that the Black Myth Wukong director actually seemed to be fairly upset after the Game Awards because he didn't win. He was happy with the Player's Choice Awards, but it's I don't really want to dwell on this too much because it's hard for me to tell if the guy was joking or not. But he seemed pretty unhappy, but it also seemed pretty joking. He also said he had like a speech ready since he finished making the game, which is, again, I think it just seems kind of jokey. It seems over the top. But then you also have like Alana Pierce, who you don't know is like a gaming personality and also used to be a writer at Sony Santa Monica, helped with the recent God of War games. She said that she saw the development team crying, but then of course somebody who was sitting with them was like, no, they weren't. So I don't know. But it's an interesting little aside that anybody would get upset about these kind of awards. Understandably so. I mean, it's kind of a big deal. And I think no matter what, like, you like being, shown that you did something good. And I get that. And being recognized for your achievements. And I think either way, the game sells better if you win Game of the Year, So it's kind of like winning Best Picture at the Oscars. It's like, even if nobody cared about your movie before, like, people will care about it now because you won Best Picture. Like, they'll watch it just because it won Best Picture. Even if they wouldn't have cared about it in a million years, before that. So I'm sure that kind of carries over. But those are the awards. Woof. Whew. That was a lot. I think, interesting categories per usual. I think, we kind of sped by them pretty quick and per usual in the Game Awards. It's more about announcements than anything else. But at the same time, I think it would also be boring if we didn't. So, I'm glad we get to show some recognition here. I'm glad these people win. I don't know if I agree wholly with how we decide the winners, how the votes are tallied and weighted and all that other stuff. I don't really know if we'll ever have a way of doing it right. I don't really think so. I know people like to think, like to rag on it and say, it sucks. There's no, these are all bad. But it's like, I don't think there's a good way. I don't think there's a good way at all. So I think, it's just fun. It's just fun to have an event and get around and talk about it and say, this is what I think is really good. And this is what I think is really bad, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, that was fun. That was fun to do that little tally. But now, onto the big stuff. Onto the big stuff. And by the big stuff, I mean the stuff that you actually care about, which is the games. Yes. The presents. I've completely forgotten the theme, and now I'm moving back to it. The presents for Christmas. Correct. So there were actually thoughts overall on this show, kind of at the top, is that it was actually really good. I think a lot of really good games were shown. Clearly, Capcom was out in force. There were several really big Capcom announcements here. This was Jeff Keighley's 10th anniversary of the Game Awards, so it was, kind of a milestone show, and I think people normally kind of have low expectations for it. And I think this year there were a lot of surprises that were pretty big. Will I say that, like, there were a lot of moments that made me freak out? Not necessarily. But I totally get why people, especially hardcore gamers in general, would be really interested in some of these announcements. So, without further ado, let's get through them. First off, we have the pre-show. So we had a few announcements that I actually think looked pretty cool at the pre-show. So if you didn't actually watch the pre-show, definitely tune in for that because you never know. You'll have some good announcements. The first was Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. Which is looks to be like a side-scrolling 2D platforming Ninja Gaiden game. I don't necessarily care about Ninja Gaiden. I've never played a Ninja Gaiden game. All I really know about Ninja Gaiden is the 3D versions of it. not the 2D. So like a return to 2D is something I haven't seen in Ninja Gaiden in a really long time, or at least that was reviewed well. I think there actually was a 2D Ninja Gaiden game at some point that really bombed. I'd have to go back and double check though. But what made this really stand out to me, I was like, oh, I don't care about this. And then I looked and it's like, oh, it's from the developers of Blasphemous. And I was like, oh, that's actually a good game. It's like, oh, it's from the publishers of Street Fighter or Streets of Rage 4 and like the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge game. And I was like, oh, that's actually a really good resume. That's actually kind of good. And that really piqued my interest. I'm like, okay, I actually liked all of those games. So I think there's definitely something here. There's definitely going to be some magic. And then you have that Ninja Gaiden IP, obviously, kind of boosting its awareness as well. But I'm definitely interested to see what we get from this, or what ends up coming from this. I think it looks interesting, but that's all I have to say on it for now. It's really just the pedigree that makes it really stand out to me. Next on my list, we have One Move Away, which looks to be a cozy packing game. So you literally are packing up your car and moving, and trying to organize things so that they fit in your car and drive away into the sunset to your next residence. It definitely looks like it is taking a lot of cues from Unpacking, which is another game where you're basically moving. Unpacking is really cool, actually. I've played Unpacking, and it tells a story of someone's life as they move from place to place. So obviously, like from the beginning of the game, you're moving like toys, and then like as you get older, you're like moving into college, and you're then you move into like a house, and then you have a kid, and like I think it tells a story in a really interesting and fun way, in a somewhat moving and melancholy way too. And I'd actually really recommend Unpacking if you ever see it on like Game Pass or PlayStation Plus or something like that. I think it's honestly like kind of a cool 2-hour game that you can just kind of pop in, get done, and do. I'm not huge into these cozy games. This is definitely trying to be a cozy game. I'm not into this. So if you are into something like an Unpacking or, these cozy games where you're trying to do menial tasks very slowly, this is a game for you. I think it'll be great. Not for me. I ain't interested. So a pass from me. Slay the Spire 2 got some more gameplay. This game has been announced. I didn't actually know that. I think I missed that announcement, or if I forgot about it. Is gameplay. It looks like more Slay the Spire. I know Slay the Spire is supposed to be great. I have never gotten into these deck building roguelike games. It just looks like it will suck my life away, so I try to stay away. But Slay the Spire 2 coming out 2025 in early access, so certainly a lot of time being sunk into that I can see in the future, no doubt. Next is Dave the Diver in the Jungle. So this is an expansion or DLC for Dave the Diver. This game continues to pump out content, which is kind of crazy. Late 2025, I'd assume this is given the release date on it, and how different it seems, I think it has to be an expansion, not just a DLC. I played several DLCs in Dave the Diver, and they were all pretty tiny, pretty, short, but just kind of add-ons to the game. But this seems like it's definitely going to be a big part of it, a big differentiating factor here where you're doing different stuff, and probably the gameplay will change if I have to guess based on Dave the Diver and what I've played of it, I've played all of it. So I think for Dave the Diver fans, huge, gigantic. I think this is going to be fun, no doubt. I think Dave the Diver is good. I don't think it's as good as people said. I think it's just not for me. But it's hard for me to deny that like it's a very well done game, and I think this DLC will be no different. So good to see some more Dave the Diver content for those who are interested. Next, I definitely had my eyebrows raised on this one. I was like, oh, this actually looks kind of interesting. This is Thick as Thieves from Warren Spector. So it's a stealth action, looks to be kind of, I'm not going to say asymmetrical, but it's competitive thieving game. So it is based on the trailer that we saw. Essentially, people kind of have different classes of thieves. Like your infiltrator, your stealth guy, your person who's good with disguises and stuff like that. And you're all trying to steal something from, a high security environment, and like you can essentially like thwart people's thieving opportunities, or like try to thwart, alert guards to their presence, and like also try to be stealthy in your own, and then like steal the thing from other people once they've already gotten it, and the guy who gets away with it wins. I actually think this sounds like a really fun idea for like a multiplayer game, and I think that if done right, it could be really cool. But Warren Spector is a very well-known name in the gaming industry, and this is his first game in his new studio, so like I think I'm really interested to see what comes of this. I'm not a big multiplayer guy, unfortunately, but I think this is one that actually looked really interesting to me. So I'm very interested to see where this goes. Next, Shadow Labyrinth. This is very interesting because I intentionally skipped talking about this early in the podcast when I talked about Secret Level. There's a Pac-Man episode that is a very interesting take on Pac-Man, and it really kind of blew me away when they showed off there's a game that is also associated with it as well, which kind of blew me away. I was like, oh, not only was there this weird kind of dark take on Pac-Man that was in Secret Level, but also they've already made it into a game. So whether I assume the game was in development, and then they made the episode to tie into that. So the game, it was the chicken that came before the egg in this instance. So it looks like a kind of side-scrolling, probably Metroidvania, if I had to guess. I don't think it looks great. I didn't really love the like idea behind the level, or the Secret Level episode. So you put those two together, and I think this is going to be like probably a mediocre game. I see this in the 70s, no doubt in my mind. This is like a 70s game. So, I don't think it looks great, but it's interesting that this even exists. I think it's impressive almost that it even exists. Because I just don't expect that from Pac-Man in general, for them to go so hard on it. Next is Steel Paws, which is a new mobile game from Yu Suzuki. If you don't know who Yu Suzuki is, in all honesty, I think you're probably better off. He is the creator of Shenmue. That's it. He's the creator of Shenmue. So Shenmue is a series that I don't think is very good at all. I don't think it was ever good, and I'm very surprised. It was very interesting. I've always heard of Shenmue, legendary series, obviously, very well known on the Dreamcast, and obviously very well known for its third installment being, something people never thought was going to happen, and then it did via Kickstarter. And I went back and I played the remasters of 1 and 2, or I played a little bit, I suppose is probably more accurate. And I absolutely hated them. I was like, there's no way that people thought this was fun back in the day. And it was only fun because of the technology around it. Like it was new technology to have like a real-time time system in a game, and the graphics were considered very good. So like it was really kind of the technological advances that made Shenmue anywhere near notable. The games themselves suck. Like I really genuinely have no idea what we were thinking back then, thinking those were like good games. In this instance though, he's got another game, and it's a mobile game, and it looks like kind of a cross between like Mega Man and like a Tower of Babel-esque kind of dungeon crawler. It's completely cinematic trailer at this point, anime style looking game, so we know nothing about it. I would not expect anything good from it, just because it's from Yu Suzuki. Next we're still in the pre-show, baby. Kiora. Kiora is basically Terraria, but from Core Keeper. So this is like the most Terraria-looking game I've ever seen. But it looks like they're trying to do basically like what if Terraria knew what it was from the very beginning and like tried to build on that. that's kind of what I get from this. If somebody showed me Kiora or Terraria, I would choose to play Kiora. But of course, like, Kiora came a decade and a half later than Terraria, so like, of course, it should be looking better. So yeah, it's another Terraria game. If you're looking forward to that, Core Keeper Dev, should be a decent time, I think. Whether it blows up, I think, is anyone's guess, but we'll see. Next, Rematch. This is interesting. It is best way I can describe it is like a Rocket League soccer game. Like, which is weird because that's what Rocket League is already, is just a soccer game but with cars. But this is like, you have like, almost futuristic looking setting. It's very arcadey. Lots of fireworks going off when you get a goal. Kind of that kind of thing. I think it looks fun. I would much rather play an arcade sports game than a regular sports game, no doubt. Like a realistic sports game. In this case, I think it definitely looks like it will be a fun time. I don't know if it's... I would think Rocket League has a hold on this, but at the same time, I think that there's definitely an audience for understanding, like a more casual audience would understand how to play a soccer game more than a soccer game with cars. I think when you try to sell that to people, it just makes more sense for like a more general wide audience to get into a game like this. But it's from the seafood developers, Slow Clap. So very interesting pivot for them, but it does look like a fun. I won't be playing it because I'm not a huge sports game guy, but like, I do think it looks like a fun time, and it will be fun if you like fun and soccer. Probably is a good combo. Next, the final one in the pre-show is one I don't know anything about, so I'm not going to waste my breath on it at least too much, is Solasta 2. So my understanding is it's basically a D&D game. Very big RPG game, and it's a sequel. There you go. That's all I got. I don't know anything about it. It's a cinematic trailer, so no reason to get too excited. It's just proof of life at this point. It just exists. So in my eyes, I don't know anything about it. I can't really speak. But hey, to those people who were really looking forward to another Solasta, here you go. It's there. So finally, woof. Let me tell you, this has been a lot of talking. I mean, podcasts are all the time. That's like all you're doing. But in this instance, I'm trying to get through it, baby. I'm trying to run through this. Trying to keep it up to the pace, and I'm running out of breath. I'm running out of steam. I'm feeling lightheaded. And we got the big stuff to talk about. I'm starting to feel kind of glad I don't have any impressions. But here we are. So the show starts up, and you got to have a good opener, right? And I think Jeff definitely nailed it for the opener. I think this is a very good opener, mainly because it's a cinematic trailer, so it doesn't really show off any gameplay. Again, it's more so proof of life, but we also knew this game was in development and knew pretty much everything about what we see in the trailer here. But we open with a nice little trailer of The Witcher 4. So it's big reveal trailer, cinematic trailer, where we learn that we play as Ciri. If you had followed anything about this game's development, you would know that you are playing as Ciri. I think CD Projekt Red even kind of said that. The books, that's what happens in the books. And the voice actor for Geralt already said he is not the protagonist of the game, and he's only a cameo role or a secondary role within The Witcher 4. The cinematic trailer looked good. It's a cinematic trailer. I'm not going to really comment on it because it's a cinematic trailer. It's basically just a movie. It has nothing to do with what the actual game is, or the gameplay of the game specifically. I guarantee you it will be more Witcher 3, just with a lady. People were upset that you're playing as Ciri. I obviously knew this was happening. I'm sad, I guess. I liked Geralt. I really liked Geralt in The Witcher 3, and I wanted to continue playing as him. So it's not necessarily that I don't think that the writing in Ciri will be good in Witcher 4. I just think that I love Geralt, and I just kind of wanted to spend more time with him. So That is why I would be disappointed, but I'm not upset. I don't know. We'll get into it further, unfortunately, but people seem to be just upset when there's like a female protagonist in games for some reason, and I would think that's like just overblown garbage that doesn't even need to be brought up, but it genuinely becomes a topic of conversation because nobody lets it die. Like, it's just weird. I don't even know why, but we'll get into it. But I can't say I'm particularly excited about it, and I think that's because you shouldn't be. Because I think there's the obvious elephant in the room of, hey, remember the last game that CD Projekt Red did? Yeah, that was Cyberpunk. And if we don't remember, that game was a trash fire on release. Like, the first game Sony ever removed from the PlayStation Store because it was so bad. Like, lawsuits were filed against CD Projekt Red because it was considered false advertising for what they did to consumers. Like, that kind of level bad. And if you didn't know, if you go even further back, The Witcher 3 was actually not considered very good on release either. It was a game that they kind of had to puff up. Like it was considered a little bit broken on release, or at least janky, I think is probably a better word for it. It was considered janky, and a lot of CD Projekt Red games have been in the past. So I think this is clearly a game you need to be, watching with a raised eyebrow and be like, I think you need to wait for reviews. I think is the candid thing to say here. You need to wait for reviews before you buy this game. I don't think you should pre-order it. I think you should wait to see what reviews say, and I guarantee you this game will have problems at release. Mark my words. I don't think CD Projekt Red has learned their lesson. And I don't think it'll be as bad as Cyberpunk, but I think it will be still there will be some kind of issues with it technically, I would assume. Glitches or otherwise. But I still think it will, in a couple of years after release, be a really, really great game that you definitely will want to play, and I definitely will be. I'll just get it for $10 on freaking a sale or something and get all the expansions with it, and I'll be freaking eating good for a really long time. But yeah, so The Witcher 4, that was a big opener, and I think definitely set the tone. Next, a very big surprise to me was Elden Ring Night Reign. The Lands Between. So this one I watched the trailer. I was like, what the frick is this? And I had to really do some research on it to be like, this is not an Elden Ring game, because it was very obvious in the trailer. This is obviously more Elden Ring, the same universe and so on. But it was very obvious they were pushing a multiplayer angle on this. Most Souls trailers, you don't see, the co-op element for, front and center. It's just single player is what they really try to push. And in this, half the trailer was some dude fighting with 2 or 3 other people, which is not normal in those games at all. So I was like, clearly this is trying to push the multiplayer angle. What is going on here? So after looking at the press release, it is a co-op survival game with a battle royale-esque flavor to it. So what it is you are on a big Elden Ring map, and you are with, I think it's 2 or 3 other friends, or other players, and you essentially run around during the day, and you fight enemies, you level up, you get gear, you go through and you do stuff. And then at the end of the day, you fight a big boss. And if you die, you start over. And if you win, you go on to the next day. And the radius each day, there is a Fortnite-like cloud or ring that shrinks around the map. And obviously, if you get caught in it, you die. So you're always being pushed towards the center of the map where the boss is. So it is basically a Battle Royale-esque Elden Ring game. And when I heard that, I was already kind of like, there's no way this is Elden Ring 2. But like, if it was Elden Ring 2, maybe I'd be interested. Even though I'm like not really begging for like another Souls experience right now, specifically Elden Ring. But like, I definitely, once I heard it was multiplayer and like it was like a battle royale, I was like, I'm out. Even though I think FromSoft is a talented development studio, this is a big departure, and Japanese studios are not very well known for their ability to create good multiplayer games, and that's what this is going to be definitely like centered around. I think it's an interesting idea. I don't know if it's what players of Elden Ring will want. I think this has a potential of being okay, or okay for a Souls game, I guess. I would say that like I wouldn't trust this at all, but From Software just did Armored Core 4, and that was reviewed very well. So I think that they can obviously step outside of their comfort zone and do a little bit more than what I'm giving them credit for. But I think this is a really big step, and I think it really messes up what people like about the games. So this is one I'm definitely watching skeptically. I'm impressed with their ability to go outside of their comfort zone like this and do something like this. I definitely have to wait and see if this is even any good. And I think it will definitely get a boost no matter what. People will be wanting to give an Elden Ring game a good score. But I don't know. It's an interesting one to be sure. So interesting to see what happens with that one. Next, we had a Final Fantasy VII Rebirth coming to PC, coming January 23rd, so a lot sooner than I expected. Well, actually, no, that'd be less than a year, but it would be only like 11 months or something like that. So not super big deal here. You got DLSS and VRR support. This is like nothing really here. When I think when Final Fantasy Remake came to PC, they got integrated automatically. So there was like a reason for people to like actually be excited for the game on PC. In this instance, it's literally just the exact same game, just there's stuff to support PCs on it. So it's not very exciting at all, because they didn't make DLC for this game, and they don't plan on it either. So they're just going to try to pump out the last one and be done with it, in the trilogy. So yeah, interesting there. But yeah, not a big deal. Project Robot. So this is the next biggie. It is from Fumito Ueda. So if you don't know Fumito Ueda, or let's actually talk about what it looked like. So I had no idea what this was, obviously, and nobody did. But it is kind of a futuristic sci-fi looking setting, and like there's this little dude walking around, and he gets into a giant robot and flies away. That's kind of all we get from it. We don't get a whole lot. But at the end of the episode, at the end of the trailer, we basically are told this is from the same dude who did Eco, Shadow of the Colossus, and The Last Guardian. And that's when I was like, okay, clearly that's a big name, Fumito Ueda. But let's back that up. Shadow of the Colossus, obviously, I still consider and understand to be one of the best games ever made. Eco and The Last Guardian, I think a lot of people would be like, I don't know about those. Like, those are okay. Like some would say they're not even good. I would say they're okay. I played all three of those games, and I think Eco is okay. I think Last Guardian is okay. I think Shadow of the Colossus is a masterpiece. When you tell me, and that was always something I had heard before I played The Last Guardian, like that was kind of the conversation, is like, okay, it's from the guy who made Shadow of the Colossus, and people were like, well, he also made Eco. And then there would always be this community kind of back and forth of like, well, Eco's a classic. And then people would be like, well, no, Eco sucks. And then like, it'd be like, well, he still made Shadow of the Colossus, so it doesn't matter. And that would kind of be how that conversation went. And then The Last Guardian came out, and people were like, oh yeah, I don't really love The Last Guardian either. So like now you have this reputation of being the dude who made a masterpiece in two games that at the very least have mixed receptions from the gaming community as being either good or bad. So again, I'm in the middle on that. I think they're both okay. So like, this looks like another moment from Fumito Ueda to kind of show if he's any good at making games, or if Shadow of the Colossus was really just a fluke. And like I'm not gonna say a fluke because I don't think The Last Guardian and Ico are bad, but like, I think he's okay at making games. I think he's got an obvious aesthetic and an obvious artsy kind of motif. But I think obviously Shadow of the Colossus is good, and I don't know if this is going to be good. I would lean towards you get 2 out of 3 wrong, and you're probably not good. I'm okay with giving you a pass on 1 game, but like giving you a pass on 2 is where I start really being like, I think you just got lucky on that one, man. You know, so I think it's cool to see this guy still out there doing stuff. You know, we finally get another game from him to see. Maybe he'll make another Shadow of the Colossus. I'm definitely holding off on it. I will not be getting it day 1. I will probably not be getting it month 1. I'll be looking at not only reviews, but also a price drop before I even attempt. Next is Outer Worlds 2. We got a new trailer, 2025 release window. We knew this game existed. I think a lot of people forgot that it has been announced. But it is a known quantity. I don't care about it. I will be able to play it for free day 1 because I have Game Pass, but I didn't really love the Outer Worlds 1. I played and beat the Outer Worlds 1. I don't remember basically any of it. I mean, it's basically like it was supposed to be Starfield before Starfield, and I don't think it was fun. Like, I think it was okay. I think it's better than Starfield, but I didn't really love Starfield at all. And like Outer Worlds 2 is just shorter, and like that's what makes it better. You know, it's just I don't have to spend as much time on it. You can probably beat it in about 20 hours comparative to Starfield's like 60 to 80. If you do all the main, like, notable quests. Yeah, I just was not a huge fan of Outer Worlds. It did not resonate with me at all. I don't know why. I can't even really tell you. I just felt like the game was okay, and I didn't really ever want to go back to it. So it having a sequel, we'll see. Maybe they fixed it. Maybe they made it super awesome. But I just don't. The universe itself just did not resonate with me. So maybe I'll try it out for free on Game Pass day 1 because Microsoft is like that. But I don't know if I'll love it. So cool to see, I guess. More of that game. Split Fiction was next. So this is from the same guy, obviously, who brought us It Takes Two. It looks to be a sci-fi / fantasy world kind of setup. So in this instance, it's 2 authors who are sent into their books. They kind of collide, and there's like a crossover between both of them as they navigate through a fantasy world and a sci-fi world. So obviously a very big clash in tones there. Based on the gameplay we saw, it looks like a crazy mishmash of like gameplay elements and styles that all look fun. I mean, okay, so rewinding, It Takes Two was probably like, it was either my second favorite game of that year or my game of the year, and it won Game of the Year at the Game Awards. I genuinely think that game is amazing. It is fun from beginning to end. It constantly changes things up in like mini games that you would just assume should be a full game most of the time, but like you just have this really short snippet of like some really fun gameplay element. And I mean, like it really did blow my mind. It blew my mind that all of those things seemed so polished and so well done and so fun. That I was like, I don't know how you can make another game after this, because you'll have to be recycling some of these elements and these ideas, and it does not look like that in the trailer at all. I genuinely wouldn't mind buying this day 1 and finding a friend to play it with, and it looks really, really good. I mean, Jonah Ferris, the creator of these games, is, I mean, I don't know how he does it. He's a madman. He's a madman, and I think I'm really looking forward to this. It comes out March 2025. So very short around the corner kind of release window there too. So really looking forward to that actually. Hopefully it's as good as it looks. Next, The Long Dark Black Frost. The Long Dark 2 Black Frost announced. I played a couple of minutes of The Long Dark. It was free, and I think PlayStation Plus Extra, and it is okay. It is a it is essentially a survival game, crafting game, where you are in the snow. And that's like kind of the big, yeah, that's the hook. I mean, pretty much. This is, I think it did pretty well though, and this is the second game. Early access in 2026, so it is a ways off. Ways off. I didn't think it was that successful to be like announcing 2 years before it goes into early access. But you know, here we are. I can't really speak too much on Black Frost. The Long Dark 2 Black Frost. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be okay. Next was Borderlands 4 getting its first gameplay trailer. Bro, this looks like Borderlands. I mean, like, I don't know. I don't really have much to say on this. This looks like Borderlands. It is not worth my breath, really. We all knew that Borderlands 4 has been in development for a really long time. We all know Gearbox is reliant on it. We all know that this is a huge series that a general audience seems to really like. It looks like more Borderlands. It looks like the same gosh darn game, and it doesn't look like I haven't seen any hook here that makes me go like, that looks like that'll be better. You know, like, that'll be a better Borderlands game. So cool, more Borderlands. Fun times ahead for those who just haven't been on their Borderlands withdrawals, I guess. Next we saw Clive Rolsfield would be collabing. He'll be entering the Tekken 8 foray. I think it's cool. Tekken, these fighting games, I love to see these crossovers. Final Fantasy characters are no stranger to that. Believe Soul Calibur, maybe? I can't remember. Again, I'm not very knowledgeable on fighting. But like I know like Noctis from 15 was in a previous fighting game. I believe Lightning was as well from 13. So like this is no news here really, but it is cool to see a confirmation, and I'm sure it'll be fun. He'll be a cool character to play as. Splitgate 2 got a new gameplay trailer. I actually really like Splitgate 1, free-to-play game that they've kind of abandoned to move on to the sequel, obviously Splitgate 2, which is not the typical development strategy nowadays for these free-to-play games. You don't just abandon one and make the sequel. You stick with it. Kind of like Overwatch 2 kind of learned that lesson the hard way, I think. And you kind of just build on it and iterate on it as you go. Here, they abandoned it. They moved on to Splitgate 2. And, I mean, it looks like more Splitgate. And I think Splitgate 1 is actually really fun. Portals is really fun to just mess around with and have a fun time with and just kind of confuse people running through portals on a map. It's actually quite satisfying. So, and I'm not, again, like I said, I only played it like one evening with a friend, and I really enjoyed my time with it. Never went back because I'm not a big multiplayer guy, but it was a lot of fun when I did. Next, I think, was a big announcement for a lot of people, which is Virtua Fighter coming back. Virtua Fighter, kind of an OG fighting game. You don't see it very often anymore. It's been a while, I think. I think people were pretty excited to hear that it was making a return. Made by the same people who are making the Like a Dragon games, the studio behind the Yakuza Like a Dragon games. I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about Virtua Fighter. I know the least about Virtua Fighter out of all the big fighting games. So this is just interesting that people were interested in it, really. Speaking of the Like a Dragon, they are also working on another project, which is Project Century. So this is a more in line with what I expected from this studio to be making, which is like a action RPG very similar to the older Yakuza games. Now I have to just differentiate that, and like more notably like Judgment, which is kind of their more modern take on the Yakuza beat 'em up franchise. But this is essentially looks like 1915 Japan. So old school Japan, and it's very bloody. There's just a dude going around beating the frick out of people and slashing their throats, copious amounts of blood coming out of people. I was actually kind of surprised by that because I could tell by the scenery and I could tell by the combat this was the same developer before that even was noted. Because that's all they really do. they kind of just put a different coat of paint on their games, which is why I'm not looking forward to this at all. The only thing that could really get you interested is the scene or like the time frame, the locale, and while that's cool, and I do think it is interesting, and it definitely piqued my interest, I just know that this is the same game that I've played a million times otherwise. Like I've played a million Yakuza games that are exactly like this. I've played, a Judgment game that's exactly like this, and guess what? This game is going to be exactly like that. So like this is just another one of those games. It's going to be another 40 to 60 hours, depending on how much time you want to put into it, of the exact same game I played before. I don't need that. I've kind of abandoned those games unless like something really stands out to me or it looks like they've made a real improvement. And in all honesty, I don't trust this studio to do that. They are the kings of putting out like a game or two every year and just changing minute things about them and giving it a different story. And like that's it. So I'm not really looking forward to this one, but I understand why people thought it looked interesting. So moving on. Turok Origins. It looks to be a first-person shooter from Saber. So it is a Turok game. I don't know. I think Saber gives mixed products. Definitely a B studio, and Turok is a IP that I just don't trust. I feel like they've just kind of given up on it. And I don't anticipate this being great. I think it will be a B-rate game. This will be a low 80, high 70s game, and it'll be okay, and it'll have Eurojank on it, and I don't care about it. I just don't care about it. I don't have any love for the Turok IP, and I don't have any love for Saber either. So it looks like it'll be all right. Warframe, 1999 release. I know nothing about Warframe, never played it. And Pal World getting an expansion, or another update at least. Faybreak, out on December 23rd. So by the time you're listening to this, it is out and playable. Yeah, I don't care about either one of those games. I don't care about them. And I guess the more notable one is Pal World. I actually played Pal World. And yeah, I mean, I guess good for it going strong. Just to stay away from Nintendo's IP, I guess, if you want to avoid another lawsuit. Okay. Next was another big announcement. Big announcement for a lot of people. I don't know much about this, or I'm not familiar with it. I know this is a big IP that people really like, though. Next that was shown off was Onimusha, Way of the Sword, which is coming in 2026. Looked like we actually saw a little bit of gameplay here, which I was a little bit surprised about. I assume this would not be shown off. One of our big Capcom announcements, and a return of an IP that has not been around in a very, very, very long time. And because of that, I'm very unfamiliar with it. I know people like it. I know the previous games aren't very long, but I also have heard they're relatively niche. So again, I don't know much about Onimusha. So I know that people are very excited about it though. And, I'm really happy for them. So, again, I'd love to say more about this, but I just don't know much about it. So I unfortunately have to continue on. First Berserker Kazan, cinematic trailer. I don't care. Cinematic trailer. Dying Light, The Beast gets a release window. So we already knew about this. It's the Dying Light 2 expansion. I think it's standalone. It's using the protagonist from the first game. And it's going to be coming out in summer 2025. I don't know. Dying Light 2 seemed to get mixed reception. The first one I played and I liked it. And I know a lot of people liked it too. So it surprised me that Dying Light 2 was a little bit mixed. So seeing this expansion being kind of a combo of both, it makes me raise an eyebrow of what the frick if it'll be good or not. So I don't know. I still don't know. There wasn't much to go off of here that really made me interested in it either way. So, I mean, it's a pass for me until I play Dying Light 2. So, I mean, if I ever play Dying Light 2. So, and if I enjoy it. So, there's a lot of what ifs here for even if I even touch this. But it's more Dying Light for people who are interested. Next was a pretty interesting show off. It was definitely an interesting little segue in from the Gaming Awards. They kind of tried to break the fourth wall a little bit. But it is Stage Fright from the makers of Overcooked. And they definitely try to show that off in the trailer. It seems to be a co-op adventure where like two people are in two opposite worlds, but you interact with one world and it it changes what happens in another one. And it seems kind of like almost like a co-op platformer puzzler, if I had to guess. Intriguing. I definitely like the art style. It looks like it has some personality to it. I'm interested to see what happens here. Overcooked honestly scared me a little bit because, and even they say in the trailer, it's like, oh, well, like you shouldn't, like it's kind of a silly, or like, like it made you want to freaking kill me when we played that game together. And it's like, yeah, that game really does freaking ruin friendships, bro. And, I hope that this game doesn't do that because I don't like that kind of stress in my games. But I think there's enough here that really looked like it had enough charm and personality. And, if it's a fun game on top of that, then I'm definitely going to take a look at it. And I think, maybe if I have a friend to play with, or I'd be interested to see how the single player aspects of it, or if there even is a single player aspect to it at all, kind of comes through. But we'll see. Very interesting reveal there. Next, Game of Thrones King's Road. So it showed off. It's like an action RPG. Has real actors in it from the show, which I don't think we've actually... Yes, we have gotten before, but in various ways and kind of not as... It doesn't seem as it was prominent as here. But this is a new Game of Thrones game. Question mark if it will be any good, because we have had Game of Thrones games before. Specifically, there was an RPG that came out towards the beginning of the run on HBO, and it was garbage. People didn't like it at all. And then there was a Telltale game, which I thought seemed like a perfect fit for Game of Thrones, but that game sucked too. Played that one, and it was like very disappointing considering like I thought Game of Thrones was such a fantastic crossover for that. It's honestly one of the weaker Telltale games out of all of them. I don't even remember most of it, which is, again, something I can't say for most Telltale games. But this has potential. That's a big question mark there. I don't know if it will be any good, but I mean, it's at least a start. It looks like, all the actors in it, they probably put some time and effort and money, specifically money being the important est factor there, into it. And I we'll see. We'll see. I'm skeptical based on the fact that they just clearly haven't cared about the IP in a video game form yet. So we'll see if that comes around and changes in this one. To no one's surprise, Last of Part 2 Remastered is coming to PC. That is the 3rd of April, 2025. Sony continuing their march onto PC with pretty much every game. I just think at this point, you clearly see Sony going through a strategy of like, yeah, all of our big AAA games, all of our big, console exclusives will be coming to Steam at some point. Like a year, if not 2, after release, we're just going to put them on there. And that's unfortunate, but, considering it does seem like that's like Nintendo is the last bastion of exclusives. But at the same time, exclusives suck, and they just kind of barricade you into like sticking with a specific console that may not be good, or having to spend a lot of money to get access to games that you may want to play. So I'm all for access to these games. It's just like, we're just moving into a different era of gaming is all. So that's all there is to that. Next was Sonic Team Racing Crossworlds. Just kind of a teaser here. Is Shadow getting in a nice little Mario Kart-esque vehicle and driving off. So more Sonic racing is essentially what this trailer is showing. I would assume you're kind of going to get like a more metaverse-y, crossover heavy Sonic racing game with this one. I know that a lot of people really like Sonic racing, and I think I've played a little bit of it. I remember it being a very good kart racer. So hopefully that continues with the sequel. And I think it will. I think I think they have the bones for everything there. So it's just a matter of making it cool. But very little to go off on in that trailer. Just that you can play as Shadow, which I guess is a big deal. Next was Mafia: The Old Country, coming summer 2025. This was actually leaked right before the show. I think like a day or two before the show, it got leaked. This is another Mafia game. I don't care about Mafia at all. I've played 2 and 3, and I didn't finish either one of them because they were just Grand Theft Auto clones to me. And I think this is looking like it will also be more of that. If you're looking for kind of a B-rate Grand Theft Auto, I think this game needs to really hope that they are getting out way before anybody starts thinking about Grand Theft Auto coming out. We'll see. But I think it's another open world game where you shoot people. I guess that's cool. Again, the idea of Mafia, being a Mafia member, is interesting and fun. I just don't think those games really capitalize on it in any fun, meaningful way. So next, Dispatch. I actually thought this game looked pretty cool. It's up my alley. It's a narrative game by the ex-Telltale devs, which is why that really stood out to me. It's a superhero management game. So you're essentially like you're at a call center and you're sending out superheroes to deal with calls. So you're managing them in the process. It actually looked like a very well done game. Starring Jesse from Breaking Bad. He will be the protagonist of the game. I honestly wouldn't have been able to tell you that from the voice of the trailer. So I'm glad that they announced that before they showed the trailer. But I love Telltale. I love narrative-focused games, choice-based games. This actually does look fairly well written and fun and interesting concept that could possibly lead to some really cool situations and some interesting choices, possibly, depending on how they decide to tackle that. But all I really need is a really cool story. And it honestly looks like that. It looked like there was some gameplay elements of this too. I am definitely assuming that the gameplay elements to this will be minor and inconsequential. They will be just there to make it a video game, and that's it. I don't anticipate this being a actual management heavy game for that. So, but it looks interesting, and I'm definitely keeping my eye on it. It's my kind of game, so I'll definitely be there for it when the time comes. Maybe a price drop, depending on what reviews say, but I'll definitely I'll get around to it at some point. And so we're down to the last 2, and they're big ones. They're biggies. So, at the end, we had 2 last announcements. Those announcements being the first, and I think a very big deal. It didn't wow me, but I understand why people are really, really into it. Capcom released, or shows off, Okami, the sequel, manned by Clover's studio, which is run by Hideki Kamiya. So this is a big deal. Why is it a big deal? Well, Okami is a very well-loved game from Capcom that's been dormant. Obviously, it's a one-off game. It never got a sequel, and it's a one-off game that Capcom has never revisited from the PlayStation 2, GameCube era, and which is obviously a long freaking time ago. And it was made by Hideki Kamiya. Hideki Kamiya famously left Capcom, started up his own studio, and recently left that studio, and now it's announced, okay, Capcom got him back, and they're gonna put him on Okami, the sequel. So this IP that had been laid dormant for a long time is not only coming back, but coming back with a legendary and the original director of the game. So, I mean, this is huge. I mean, like, you really can't ask for more as an Okami fan, or really just a gaming fan, in all honesty. I have actually played Okami. It is a Zelda-like game, and I don't even like Zelda games that much. I love Okami. I think Okami's great. The art style, like the ideas in terms of gameplay, the game's actually pretty meaty too. Like, there's 3 different arcs of the story throughout the game, and each time I got to the end of one arc, I was like, oh, well, that's the end of the game. And then they just they started up an entire new arc, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I honestly would have been happy if you just ended the game right there, and then you just gave me another huge chunk of it. That's amazing. I think, like, there are a couple of open world segments, or open area, not world, but open area segments in the game where, like, running around as Okami is super fun. Dungeons in that game are super cool. Or well made, and then, like, the writing and, like, characters in those games are super memorable, super fun, and like, I mean, I think seeing this, like, what we can do with Okami now would be really amazing. I think you can do some really cool stuff. I mean, just think like a modern Zelda game, but Okami. Like, I think that sounds amazing. That sounds super fun, and I think a huge deal. This was like the 4th time during the show that Jeff Keighley cried. Definitely crybaby Jeff Keighley on display during this show. But I get it. I mean, it's endearing in a way, for sure, to see somebody get emotional over an announcement like this. And it's obviously a big deal that Jeff gets to show it off. So this one is the last one, though. The last one. Holy frick. We've been going on for frickin' 2 hours, and I did not expect that at all. I thought this was going to be a super short episode, because I have no impressions, which I think is, holidays have been rough, people. We knew we needed a break, but now I didn't get one, apparently. But anyway, the last announcement. It was the only announcement where my jaw dropped. My jaw dropped, and it didn't even drop until the very end of the trailer. So this was Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. It starts off with a sci-fi girl in a ship. 90s punk is how they show it off. The ship looks like a Porsche. She's playing, like, CDs in a CD player. She's shaving her head, very, like, incorrectly, but I might add, very funny. People were pointing out, like, she's using the razor wrong. So, like, clearly just nobody at Naughty Dog. Oh, frick, I just spoiled that. It's made by Naughty Dog. But that was the big reveal. That was what I was aiming towards. But I'll get to that in a second. But nobody at Naughty Dog apparently knows how to shave heads, or has ever shaved a head, or has a shaved head, because she's using the blade wrong. So it's just funny to see. But essentially she goes into, like, she gets a call and is told, like, hey, she's essentially what seems to be a bounty hunter. And, they're like, oh, if you go into that planet, nobody ever comes out, yada, yada, yada. And I can't say I was, like, blown away by this trailer at all. It looked interesting, looked fine. But, like, I can't say I was blown away or intrigued in any significant capacity. Still trying to figure out what it was the entire time. Eventually at the end, we get to she gets on the planet and she's, like, fighting a robot with a giant sword. So it seems like this game is going to be a third-person action, like, slasher kind of beat-em-up style game. And then at the very end, the Naughty Dog logo shows up, and that's when my little tiny brain, it exploded. It went, oh my gosh, tying it back into Christmas, this is the best Christmas present ever. Thank you, Santa Keighley. Okay, that was a little forced. But my jaw dropped. Because all that stuff that I had seen looked fine, but the promise of something like a Naughty Dog, specifically one Naughty Dog working on a new IP. That's a big deal. And then, finally getting away from The Last of Us and Uncharted, we just haven't seen them do anything new in a while. So, like, this has clearly been going on for a while. They're probably a ways in at this point. But, like, a new IP from Naughty Dog, clearly very, very, very different than anything that they've done previously. And the potential of this universe, this writing, the gameplay, like, it just made my mind start racing because, Naughty Dog is just good at all those things. They're fantastic with writing, with characters, with gameplay, with polish, with really just making games. Right? So, like, this immediately, it wasn't the trailer itself that made me particularly interested, but just the logo. Like, all you really had to show me was, this is the concept that Naughty Dog is working on right now. This is how far along we seem to be. And that in and of itself made my jaw drop. There are definitely announcements in this show that made me go, like, holy frick. Like, that's really cool. Like, Okami being one of them. But, like, this was the only one that, like, surprised me necessarily. Like, I kind of knew what all the other announcements were pretty quick. It wasn't necessarily a surprise. But, like, like, that Naughty Dog logo was a, like, mic drop moment that made me go, like, dang, that's pretty cool. So a really good ender, a really good cap on this. And me and the guys throughout the year, Cam and Alexis, for you hardcore listeners out there, we were kind of talking about some, like, specifically Gamescom. Like, how would you structure these shows? What would you put at the beginning and the end? Because you really do need something that's really good at the beginning, but you don't want it to be like your big heavy hitter. Like, you don't want it to be your best announcement. In this instance, I think Jeff definitely played it right. I think this was definitely the one you used to cap off the show, to leave people with a lasting impression. These are the announcements that people are going to remember moving forward. And like, I have to say I was really impressed with the show overall. I think, like, during the middle of it, it kind of lulled. I kind of started getting bored. These shows are always long, and, like, I think during the middle is where if you've ever watched the Oscars, that kind of happens too. Is, like, the beginning of the show is where they kind of do some of the more fun stuff. They kind of do some hooks to get you settled in and make you think, like, okay, this is going to be a good show. And then, like, the middle, they shove all the stuff you don't care about, and then at the very end is what they make you wait for. So you got to stick around to see, like, Best Picture and stuff like that. So, like, I understand the structure. I understand why it's like that, why it starts high, goes low, lulls in the middle, and then comes back high. But, like, I think overall, this was probably my favorite Game Awards I've seen in a few years, since, like, our Judas announcements and stuff like that. When I went in person to go to the Game Awards, like, that was probably my favorite show since then. Which, like, it seems like Jeff was holding a lot of these announcements for this show. Admittedly, holding sounds like it's probably not accurate, because like, probably these people want these announcements at the Game Awards, because for those that didn't know, over 154 million people watched it on YouTube alone. I was watching it on YouTube, and over a million people were watching concurrently on the YouTube feed, which was insane. I've never seen a live stream like that, ever. So, like, it's official. Like, the Game Awards are huge. And if I was an advertiser, if I was any publisher, Naughty Dog developer, anybody, I'd say, put me on the Game Awards. Like, do not put me on freaking Gamescom. Like, 1/10 of the people will watch that. If I'm lucky, if I'm lucky, 1/10 of the people will watch that. Like, I want my game on the Game Awards, no doubt. So I get why all of these things are crammed kind of into the Game Awards, because that's the one that people watch the most. Summer Games Fest is still definitely fledgling. It's still new. Not as many people really look at it as, like, the place to go for these announcements yet. The Game Awards people talk about. It goes viral. You have those awards that make people talk even more. So, like, the word spreads for this stuff a lot more than it does for something like the Summer Games Fest, and obviously more so than Gamescom. So, like, if I don't think he was necessarily sitting on it, but I think that's just how it has to be. But But it gives a really awesome cap to the year, and it makes it a great show. I just think that, unfortunately, you're just looking at like the Summer Games Fest is like the stopgap, like for people who want to make announcements for games that are coming out in the second quarter of the year. Like if you want to make an announcement for a game that's coming out and you want the marketing to kind of follow a 6-month trajectory or something like that, that's where you see announcements for games like those. And I think the Gamescom is like this like weird redheaded stepchild that like is kind of in the middle of both of those and really doesn't have a purpose. And then obviously the Game Awards is like, that's your final quarter kind of thing where people are shoving everything. You're announcing games for the next year, and most people are watching it. So of course, most people are going to be wanting their announcements there and putting, probably paying top dollar to get them there at this point because it's such a massive audience. But what would I give the Game Awards this year? Rating, its letter grade, maybe a number grade. Let's see. I'm going to say B+, maybe an A-. I'm going to go B+. Oh, that just sounds so harsh. I really do think some of these announcements deserve an A-, an A rating of some kind. So we're going to go A-. That's still really, 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 really good. Really, really good. There are a lot of cinematic trailers in here, which is why like some of the announcements are just like placeholders. But I love those placeholder announcements. They're for me, like Okami, The Witcher, Intergalactic. Those are all amazing games that I'm so excited for. But they're also all cinematic trailers. In the terms of Okami, it's literally just like we don't even have a name. They literally announced it as Okami sequel, which is like you're not even gonna put a 2 on it. Like it's just like it is. We don't know what the frick it is yet. We just know we're making it. It could be a prequel. I don't even know. It's like, okay, I guess that's cool. So like a lot of these really big announcements were nice, but like they weren't huge. They were just, or they weren't like full on announcements. They were just like, these exist. And it's like, okay, that's nice. I'm glad. But like, I really don't try to get excited about anything until we get there. Like, we're seeing gameplay. We are able to verify this game looks good. And even when you see gameplay, that doesn't necessarily mean that the game's still going to be good, even if the gameplay looks good. So at the end of the day, though, I think this was a really good show. Really great end of the year for video games, and I think Jeff should be proud. But, what a show. I am exasperated, exhausted, and another word that means tired. And I think I'm going to wrap it there. Thank goodness, actually. I was trying desperately over the past few days. I was like, I got to find time to like freaking beat all of Indiana Jones so I can have an impression to talk about. Or like, I got to get on PlayStation and play a new game. So I got to talk about something. And then yeah, this is enough. Like, this is fine. This is more than enough. And I think, it's understandable, right? I mean, everybody's busy during the holidays. And I definitely have been. There just hasn't been any time. Heck, I'm giving an entire evening of my day or my holiday season just to get this podcast up and running and going. So, like, that's another evening I could have been playing video games, but alas. But I'm definitely looking forward to Santa's presents with lots of video games in store, lots of video games. And I hope that you're in store for a lot of video games this year too, friend. Yes, you and your family. I hope that you all have a wonderful holiday season. From me and everyone at the Plug and Play podcast, which is right now just me, but anyone else who wants to, even if you even think of yourself as somebody who's in the Plug and Play podcast, you too. I hope that you have a wonderful holiday season. Whatever holiday you celebrate, spend it with family, whatever you do. People you care about. Even if your family isn't blood, make sure you're around people that you love, and cherish the people that you love. And cherish your video games. Try to, make it more about video games. But, that's all I got for you, and I won't see you until 2025, which will be fun, because of course we got, Game of the Year podcast. Who doesn't want to do a Game of the Year podcast? Of course I'm going to do a Game of the Year podcast, silly, And yeah, a Fantasy Critic Roundup too. That was it. That was the other one I was thinking of. I was like, another good one other thing. And we'll see what happens from there. But definitely looking forward to next year. Lots of great games. And I look forward to seeing you there too, friend. So have a good one. Wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to yours and yours. We'll just put 2 S's. That's what we call a callback. Put an S into both of them. See ya, and bye-bye.